afternoon, Babylon. Randy Yarborough with you this Wednesday, July the 27th, the year 2016 of my Lord and Savior, the Lord and Savior, Yahshua HaMashiach, Jesus the Christ. The King of Kings, the Lord of Lords. There is no king but King Jesus. The thing that hath been is that which shall be, and that which is done is that which shall be done, and there is no new thing under the sun. All been done before. We just change the actors on the stage, the technology and the terminology change a little, and the insanity just builds and builds. But we never learn from history. All been done before. You know, the actors are on the stage. They're in Cleveland. Well, they've gone home. They're in Philadelphia now. All the actors on the stage. Yeah, it's craziness. It's craziness. So, since there's really nothing new, a few housekeeping notes. National conference call for NORM, National Organization for Raw Materials, the farmers, anyone else out there that wants an honest money system. We have a plan. It's worked really well in the past. The only problem was it didn't enrich the bankers. You need to find out more. Join us every Saturday and Tuesday at 5 p.m. Mountain, 7 Eastern, 6 Central, and 4 Pacific. The number to join us is 712-432-0926. 712-432-0926. Conference number 123462. 123462. Also want to thank First Amendment Radio at firstamendmentradio.com for rebroadcasting us up over their satellite and internet network. And we thank all those listeners at firstamendmentradio.com. What else do we got here? Let's do this. Yeah, since we're going to be talking about this today. Quote, there will be in the next generation or so a pharmacological method of making people love their servitude and producing dictatorship without tears, so to speak, producing a kind of painless concentration camp for entire societies so that people will, in fact, have their liberties taken away from them, but will rather enjoy it, because they will be distracted from any desire to rebel by propaganda or brainwashing enhanced by pharmacological methods. And this seems to be the final revolution. Unquote. Aldous Huxley. A speech given in 1961 to the California Medical School. Yes. Fill your glasses at the River Denial. And we'll be back with my guest, Larry Taylor, here on the American Freedom Network. And we're back. The show is to free America here on the American Freedom Network, and we need your help, folks. Simple as that. Need your help. Pay the phone bill, the light bills. Feed the squirrel out there running in the cage in the transmitter so this signal goes out to you. We need your help. We fed him some, Happy Hens chicken food, but, well, he said, no, I'm not quite happy with that. So he went on a hunger strike. So now we got to find the right food for the squirrel. We need your help. Call Michael. Call Cody. 800-205-6245. 800-205-6245. My guest today, a watchman on the wall, former police officer in the military, an intercessory prayer warrior out there now trying to awaken the slumbering people as they bask on the banks of the River Denial. Larry Taylor, welcome.
Hello, Randy. Thank you for having me.
Hey, it's been a while, and it's just time we do a radio show.
I'm ready. Sounds good. Lots to talk about.
Yes, there is. The political circuses that are going on, it's just incredible. I mean, there was all of this all of this hoopla, Larry, that, oh, Cleveland's going to burn, Cleveland's going to, come falling down, and, well, nothing much really happened. I guess so. George Soros didn't pay Black Lives Matter and MoveOn.org and occupy enough money to, well, put their necks on the chopping block.
Well, it reminds me a lot, Randy, of the Brexit. The world was coming to an end when the UK decided to leave the EU. And, for 2 or 3 days there, I mean, it was the end of the world. And then, well, the stock market didn't even really bubble hardly. I mean, and when you sit back and you watch closely, just exactly what you said, George Soros was involved in that. The rich men are very, very busy at trying to manipulate the whole world, actually.
Oh, absolutely. Just as the Lord said they would.
I'm kind of shocked that so many people, or actually I would say too few people, ever really bring up Psalm 2, the Psalm 2 war, and Stuart Best, every time you turn around, he's bringing that up again, and it's interesting how so many people, it's like their eyes glaze over, and they never heard of a Psalm 2 war. They never heard of Psalm 2. They didn't even know there was a really great conspiracy because they didn't know that ever conspiracy is not just a theory.
Yeah, but that war ought to be at least mentioned every Sunday from that holy day where we worship the sun. Every Sunday from the pulpit. At least mention it, read it, folks, study it, and watch what's happening around you. It's happening today, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely. It's an everyday war. I mean, every day we wake up, it's ongoing. Even when we're asleep, that war is continuing somewhere on the planet, and it never stops. This is part of what we're seeing around us, and it just continues.
Absolutely. So, out of this political circus dog and pony show, on the Trump side, it's kind of got the rich men. I don't know if Trump is part of the rich men club or not. But the people that got behind him have looked around and they're, well, maybe the denial juice is wearing off. Their delusion is the veil is being lifted, maybe. And then we go to this dog and pony show in Philadelphia with the Democrats. The Bernie Sanders people and the emails. The emails showing the Democratic Party sabotaging his campaign, which has got them up in arms and just, oh, do you think that the veil, the delusion they're in is lifting?
Well, Randy, it should be thinning, but, I kind of wonder if maybe the water isn't heating up enough that they're about to croak, if you get my gist.
Ah, okay. They're going, oh, it's a little hot in here. Well, let's see. Yeah, and, oh, my Obama phone quit working. What happened there? Oh. Stay tuned. We'll be right back after this break here on the American Freedom Network. And we're back. Larry Taylor, my guest today, Watchman on the Wall. His website, you can go there to LarryWTaylor.org. LarryWTaylor.org. Scroll down at the bottom. There's the email. Send him an email and say, put me on the list. And you'll also get the updates of you and Stuart Best, Larry, have been doing a bunch of the shows on I lost it. Night Shadows.
Night Shadows. That's it.
Night Shadows. Yes. Okay. But the link could go there. You can just go to Larry's website, drop your email, say, put me on a list, so that everyone now is on a list. We're all on a list. And the big list out there, Larry, is that Book of Life.
That's right.
And
absolutely. That's it. That's the important list.
That's the most important list. If your name is written in that Book of Life. The delusion continues. The people aren't falling for the rhetoric that the economy is once again booming and just wait. We had to take a little road trip early this morning, and we're driving down this back road with a railroad track that isn't used anymore, and here's miles and miles and miles of those rail cars that they put the containers on and ship them, just sitting there. No containers on them, just sitting there, getting ready to head to the steel mill in Pueblo to be melted down.
Yeah. Well, I know what you're saying, because we've had for years so many of the I seem to be getting some feedback on this on my end, but I don't know if you can hear it or not.
Can't hear.
Okay. Anyway, there are a lot of coal cars, would come through here for years, and now it's not hardly as many ever as we used to see. I mean, there's been such a slowdown, and it's really a I guess you could say a slowdown that is manipulated, that's been occurring, all across the country.
Yes.
In energy especially.
The economy's on the brink. We're on the brink of World War III. Have you uncovered any more on this Russian warplanes reportedly bombing a secret U.S.-British base in Syria?
Well, what's interesting, there's not a lot of data, and a lot of that we're getting out of the Middle East. The Middle East news forces and, but American news, it seems like we've gone vanilla. Mainstream news especially is just absolutely vanilla. But that report was startling but not surprising, because when you look back, if you look at the Obama administration, what entities were actually born under that administration and enabled by it? Well, one of those, of course, Black Lives Matter, and the other, of course, was ISIS. What's the surprise?
Yeah, well, they couldn't use El Qaeda anymore because they most conveniently found Bin Laden and shot him, and I guess dumped his body in the Adriatic Sea there. Oh, too bad, so sad. And so we couldn't use Al Qaeda anymore because we just need a new boogeyman.
Well, as you well know, one of the interesting things, too, that's occurred is one of the enablers of ISIS has been Turkey for some time. Erdogan, the president of Turkey, has been working and actually buying a lot of the ISIS oil and financing some of ISIS.
Yes,
but now that relationship has broke up, especially with this latest coup. And actually, interestingly, Erdogan is pointing his fingers right back at Obama.
Oh, for the attempted coup?
Well, not only the attempted coup, but for, the enabling of ISIS.
Right. Because we went over there and we were going to eradicate him and just bomb them into the Stone Age, right? And so this went on for months and months and months. And then, Mr. Putin shows up in Syria. And guess what? He blew up a bunch of their tanker trucks and their staging areas and all this, and the flow of oil kind of dribbled down to nothing.
Well, it's interesting that Russia appears to be able to do a lot more than we do. And what's interesting is Russia has been really supporting Assad and coming down against the anti-Assad forces, basically, in that Syrian theater. However, they've also had time to actually do some damage against ISIS. And, we're still dithering and talking about it. And, of course, when Obama says he's got boots on the ground, I mean, you almost can have a vision of 2 or 3 guys wearing combat boots walking in the desert, and that's the boots on the ground from America.
Well, maybe the special forces guys that are in there maybe not appreciate that too much, because they are in there.
They're there. They're working. They're trying to work with, especially the Kurds,
Right.
And the Kurds are great fighters. I mean, absolutely fearless, great fighters, and really take on ISIS. With the exception of, if you've watched very closely the reports, Obama has done nothing but try to keep from giving the Kurds anything to even fight with. This is a very, very one-sided war, but some of them, especially like the Kurds, they're able to carry on anyway, and it appears that Russia is helping, some of the Kurdish forces there. So it's interesting that we watched this interesting begin to occur, and we watched that happen, and we watched some kings fall and a reset, established in a few countries, but it appears that Muslim Brotherhood really wasn't all that much the good guys, so to speak.
Yes. Which I bring up that we bring up then Abomination's half brother, the money man and weapons procurer for the Muslim Brotherhood.
Well, it's certainly a smaller world than we thought it was, but there's lots of connections. I find it so interesting, and Stuart and I think you also talked about this, that how isn't it interesting that Russia actually knew Obama's name, that he would become the next president of America using, and they knew his other name that, of course, people don't talk about that much today in America. But, Russia knew that he was on the way sometime before he ever showed up, and the American people didn't. It's a came out that's incredible. It's called Liberty's Last Stand by Stephen Kuntz. Stephen Kuntz is no military guy. He was a friend of Tom Clancy, and he wrote a recent book, Liberty's Last Stand, and in this book, somebody from almost nowhere shows up, and he introduces this President Barry Soetoro in his book. And boy, I'll just tell your listeners, if you got, I've mentioned this before on Stuart shows and my blogs too, and Stephen Kuntz, that Liberty's Last Stand, everybody that's bought one said it's the most incredible book. If it wasn't fiction, they'd think it was prophetic.
Really?
Oh, yeah. It was interesting that I even heard about this guy, Stephen Kuntz, that's Coonts, and his website is Kuntz.com. And anyway, he wrote a number of books years ago that I had read, Flight of the Intruder, a number of books. In one of his books, he wrote about saucer craft. Saucer was one of his books. And I saw him on Lou Dobbs here a few months ago, and Lou was interviewing about Liberty's Last Stand, that book that just came out 2016 before this election. And Lou Dobbs asked Stephen Kuntz, said, you think they'll make a movie out of this book you just wrote? And Stephen Kuntz said, they wouldn't dare. And so I looked up Amazon.com and found his book and ordered it, and it blew my mind. It was so incredible, and it actually incorporated so many things really where we're at right now and where this may go, this whole scenario. It includes Jade Helm in it and what Jade Helm was for, and it goes into, Texas leaving the Union, and Oklahoma's the second one, I think, that leaves the Union in the book. And, just, it's so amazing, so amazing. And what's interesting is that's the only show that I know, the Lou Dobbs Show, that's Fox Business Network, LouDobbs.com, had the interview with him, and that put the book out publicly, and then he dropped out of sight, Stephen Kuntz. I'm not even sure he's in the country. I've tried to contact him and can't. But even his book, you won't even hear anything unless you go to Amazon or get it maybe from him, from his website. You'll never even hear about the book. I mean, it's just, you know how, and I've shared this before, there are certain books, including some of Stewart's data, that they don't want out there, and you never hear it advertised, you never see it in print, you never hear anything. So if anybody wants a Liberty's Last Stand, you can get it from Amazon, hard copy, or I don't know if they make paperback or not, but it's one well worth of purchasing, and read that story and follow that President Barack Obama. Barry Soetoro, because Kuntz uses Obama's real name in the book.
Most interesting. And then if we, talk about books, the books of Daniel Holdings out there. And how that's coming together here.
Oh, it's amazing. I mean, it's absolutely amazing. That I like what I saw in a book one time that my good friend on Night Shadows wrote. Of course, we're talking about Stuart Bass. Stuart wrote a book, and he wrote in the front of that book, he said, everything in this book is absolute fiction, every part of it, unless it's true. Well, you got to do that. You got to cover yourself now with that, because there's so much of it now. There's such heavy censorship, especially on. You can't hardly put out the truth anymore as the truth.
Well, Facebook censoring everybody. Pretty soon it'll be only approved by government filters. Yes. And we're back. Larry Taylor, my guest today. Question, comments, phone lines are open, 877-254-7524 for my special guest. Larry's website is LarryWTaylor.org. LarryWTaylor.org. Scroll down to the bottom, and there's the email. Send them off an email. Say, put me on the list. You'll get timely updates, also the updates of when Larry and Stuart are up on the radio at Night Shadows. Always interesting shows, so check it out. It's time to turn off the television, folks, and, get informed. Time to, actually fall down on our face, Larry, and repent. Or we're past time for that.
No, we're never past that. We're never past that point as long as we're still breathing.
Yeah.
However, once the breath stops, you could really be in trouble.
Really be in trouble. And, the political circus out there, their little g gods are failing them. It's, you're not following through on your promises, their little g gods are failing them.
That's one of the reasons that Stuart and I talk so much about the iron and the clay, and why there actually winds up being a New World Order that has iron in it. The reason basically for that is the New World Order, being human, is never going to, according to the Bible now, is never going to get this thing laid out like they think. They're never going to get this solidified. And what's interesting, too, if you have followed where this is going with the rich men and the New World Order and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, they're pretty much too far into the manipulation and the moving towards that new order to back up. They're too far gone. You know, this thing's, people are waking up. They really are. I'm kind of shocked, you know. Maybe a few people in Colorado's waking up around you, but I don't, it's shocking that people are beginning to wake up. And so I think what's going to happen is, biblically, if you look very closely, it appears that because they're, I look at it, and these guys. I mean, all of these people, like you said, little gods. They think they're little gods. They don't want anybody ruling over them. They don't want anyone with a little more power or technology than they have running anything, even if it's supposedly alongside them. So that means that they would never even allow an arrival. And what we're talking about, arrival, is what Stan Dale warns about, because they want to solidify and control this whole world themselves. That being said, biblically, though, it appears that they're not able to fully establish this New World Order, and get it into effect and control the whole world. And because of that, and when I mention, iron and clay, we're talking about, in Daniel, because of that, the iron, and what I call that the alien card, if you want to call it that, there's an arrival of an outside force that helps them to put this together to solidify humanity going into basic slavery on the planet. So, but the interesting thing is, if you look at history, if you look pre-flood and all of this other, the Nephilim, or Nephilim, however you want to say it, they never have played well with others.
Really?
Yeah, it might be a cookbook.
Ah, yes.
You remember the old Twilight Zone movie, To Serve Man? What they were actually talking about was serving man on a platter,
And this, you'll never find it in the mainstream news.
Oh, my God.
All over the world, they're digging up the remnants, Claustona, digging up the remnants of the Nephilim and their offspring all over the world now.
How about the ones that are not just bones? How you like that?
Go into that a little.
Oh, okay. There's a couple of sources I want to use here. I don't know if you've seen the new Watchers 10 that just came out.
No.
Okay. You need to get a copy of that. It'll literally blow your mind. Watchers 10, it's directed by Richard Shaw. Matter of fact, Richard does a lot of the work in it. And L.A. Marzulli. You can get it from L.A. Marzulli's website. You can probably get it. I don't know if it's up at Amazon yet or not, but you can definitely get it from him. I got a copy the other day. And I'll tell you what, you remember the old report from Steve Quayle? Steve Quayle wrote a book on the military over in Afghanistan killing a live Nephilim, a giant.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you saw the front of the book or not, but they had a giant there in ropes, and they were flying it, somewhere secret. Well, then you'll actually see this in Watchers 10. You'll actually listen to and see witnesses in the military and the establishment that were there when this occurred. They'll tell you all about the giants, what happened to it, how big it was, how they were unable to kill it, how it eats people and ate some of their people. In other words, our military got ate. Okay? I won't tell too much about it because everybody needs to get Watchers 10 and look at it for themselves. George Newry is really behind the witnesses that were involved in these operations in Afghanistan. And so instead of talking about bones, we can literally now, with knowledge of the time we live in, 2016, talk about live Nephilim giants that have been killed and are known to live underground. Okay, if we get away from Watchers 10, and I'll bring something else up, too, about it in a few minutes, but talking about the giants, you know, through Klaus Dona, who I've known a number of years, Klaus Dona introduced me to a Russian researcher by the name of Ernst. His name was Professor Ernst. It's not Ernest, but it's like Ernst Moldashev. His last name is Moldashev. And he's a researcher out of Russia. He was one of the ones, and I think you probably saw it on my blog. You remember in Syria there was some footprints looked like in cement of giants' feet, and they had some kids sitting down there by these feet, and these were big, massive feet, you know, footprints. Well, these are from Moldashev's, research that he did. He went into Syria. He found graveyards of the giants that most people in the Western powers could not go into. And he investigated those graves. He found these giant footprints. He researched and developed that. He was then taken to, up in the Himalayas. He became really close with some of what they call the monks or the Buddhist people that apparently served caverns, deep underground caverns. And we'll finish this on the other side of the break.
And the cliffhanger is there. Stay tuned. We'll be right back. And we're back. Phone lines are open. Question or comment for my guest, Larry Taylor. You can find out more at larrywtaylor.org. larrywtaylor.org. Scroll down to the bottom to the email there. Drop him an email and say, hey, put me on the list. That'll get you updates of Middle East news, prophecy news, earthquake news, earth changes, and also his radio schedule with him and Stuart Best on Night Shadows. So we left off your Russian researcher, archaeologist in Tibet, and I was looking through here. I couldn't find it, but there's a verse in, I think, Isaiah, that Isaiah is praying to the Lord, Lord, don't let the giants reappear.
Yeah, it's basically, Stuart quotes that one quite often, and his rendition is asking the Lord not to let the giants live again. And what's so striking about that, to go back into the story I was telling, Moldashev was taken, or according to his research, his data, I've got his book, I've got the photos, but he was taken down into underground caverns by the Buddhist monks that served those underneath the caverns, deep underground, and said that the Nephilim, or the Nephilim, the giants, that they are there. And it appears to him, now he says that he calls it, they're in suspended animation, something that appears like suspended animation. There's an energy field that surrounds them, and that he said the best way he can describe it is they're not alive, but on the other hand, they're not dead, And he stated that the ones that go down under there say that they will awaken and they will come out. And I remember talking to Red Elk a number of years ago. Red Elk, he's gone now, but Stuart had him for some meetings, and did a documentary with him. And Red Elk told me that he says those giants are down there. He said they're going to come out. He said sometime, and he told me a few places they would probably surface, but he claimed that they were down there and that they were going to come back out. And so that makes perfect sense in Isaiah, where it talks about, basically asking the Creator to not allow these giants to live again. And basically I look at it like apparently that's a threat to mankind. In other words, that was a prayer to keep mankind from experiencing what was before the flood all over again. And so even, nowadays, even though they've tried to hide all the bones for years, they're coming up with more and more skeletons, more and more bones, in Ecuador especially, Peru, really all over the world. They're finding them everywhere. except it seems like a lot of the bones disappear. Now, the only ones I know that have been verified by research are the bones Klaus Dona has dug up and had research done on them, and they were verified as belonging to giants. So there's your scientific, reports. But we're looking at it. It's almost like, Randy, that the planet we're born on, and of course, we all go to school, or I'm assuming we all go to school and learn something. Really the history that really is there is hidden, and it's almost like we're really shown some kind of virtual reality that exists around us and told to believe that.
Yes. I mean, it's forbidden history, forbidden science. We can't, we're not going to go there. And we're not going to teach it. And, but the Lord said that all these things would be revealed. I mean, just as in the days of Noah, when the Lord said that, that's just, that's a lifetime of research, Larry.
And guess what they have just discovered?
Tell me.
There's a lot of mysteries out there and a lot of things that the Bible talks about, especially in Revelation. They just have discovered a flying creature that has a tail with a stinger on the end of it.
Oh, yes. That's, you had that as a short clip.
Yeah. I had some images, and then I had the short clip. That also is included in Watchers 10. Richard Shaw and L.A. Marzulli bring that out closely. They've done DNA work on that now. They have a body. They have a body to work off of. What's interesting, too, is the elongated skulls that they were dealing with in Peru, and they actually have done, and I don't want to give their Watchers 10 away at all, but I'll bring this point out because I know they're going all over the country saying the very same thing. They was actually on Coast to Coast AM Monday night with all of this data, but they ran DNA with the hair of one of those skulls. They ran it, and it did match. It was not human. It did match, though, hair that was taken from someone that it was a female that said she was a hybrid. She declared that she was a hybrid on the planet. They took some of her hair. It was traced to the DNA of these elongated head creatures. And also, there was some other data that they ran that was very, very close to that. And like I say, I don't want to give away their DVD. There's a lot of secrets in there. But it tells people that all of a sudden, Randy, we're finding ourselves, there's evidence. I mean, it's not, I used to get, this was so funny, Randy. You remember me and all my pictures I used to take of the sky? I always looked to the sky.
Right.
And I saw all kind of strange things. I'd take pictures and I'd put them up there. And, well, of course, people said, well, that's just a blur. That's a smudge on your camera. That's this, that's that. This is, all kind of a light. There's something wrong with the light. Or, there's always something wrong with every picture I took. I then finally decided that, well, it didn't make much sense to take pictures because people wouldn't believe them anyway. But you know what? We're beyond that now. It doesn't make any difference whether they want to believe it or not. We're actually into evidence now on the planet. Now, people are drinking denial juice until it runs dry, but the evidence is real.
Evidence is real. Stay tuned. We'll be right back. And we're back. Larry Taylor, my guest today. You can go to his website. It's LarryWTaylor.org. LarryWTaylor.org. Scroll down in there to the bottom and email and drop him a line and say, put me on the list. And you'll get his email updates, his radio shows with Stuart Best. And, get an education, folks, of there's more going on out there than you realize. Mainstream media will never report any of this because, Larry, happy as well. We're happy as the the pig in the sty. Yes, we are. Oh, it's just incredible. You know, you try to wake people up, even about the money situation. Try to talk to them about that. The bankers and how the bankers have, well, they're the ones behind this.
Well, it's so interesting, you know, when you and I were on with, actually Night Shadows when it began, you know, it's been a few months now. You know, I enjoyed the show that Stuart and I were with you on, and you were there as a guest, and you talked about, you know, somewhat the history of the bankers and the history of this emergency that had been operating in the United States for so many years. I mean, that was so intriguing, and it was the truth. But, you know, really, how often do you get to relate that, you know, on radio? I mean, other than your own radio show, how often are you called on the phone and said, hey, Randy, tell us about this history of what's really been going on for years?
Well, let's see. I haven't gotten any calls from CNN or Fox or any of those guys. Maybe I will one day. Huh. And we're back with the second hour of Free America here on the American Freedom Network. My guest today, Larry Taylor, watchman on the wall, former police officer, former military, out there now, a watchman on the wall, an intercessory prayer warrior, trying to hold the evil back. LarryWTaylor.org. LarryWTaylor.org. The veil is thinning between the spiritual battle going on. That battle is breaking out into our physical world, isn't it, Larry?
Oh, absolutely. And as you mentioned earlier in the first hour, talking about Daniel Holdings and his books, Daniel talked a little bit about that, and we're seeing that playing out. And it's so interesting. Daniel Holdings, I know you've had him on your show a number of times, but, you know, he wrote those books, and he says, I'm a fiction writer, except some of, and like I said, Stuart says, it's all fiction unless it's real.
Yes.
And you know, Randy, you know, we were talking, you know, about having evidence. You know, we're talking about the Nephilim, the giants. So we were talking about little creatures they found now in Mexico that they actually have the body of, you know, that has wings, it has a tail, it has a stinger on the end of the tail, which reminds you of Revelation and talking about the abyss, those flying creatures that sting mankind. And you know,
and this is a little.
Yeah, they talk more and more about all this evidence that we found, but I don't think that people's minds can really wrap around what we're beginning to see, and that's what concerns me about now, the thinning of the veil even more so. How are they going to handle that if they can't handle here what's in front of them already?
Yes. I mean, right in front. I mean, they can't handle the corruption and everything else and the evil of man's heart right before them. And the pulpits have not. I mean, the pulpits. You start talking about this, and it's all put away as allegory. It's all just a, you know, it's a word picture is all it is. Nothing to this in quote reality unquote.
Well, it even reminds me of so much of Stuart Best's Typhonia. You know, I mean, you know, that was an incredible find. And actually that really was, you know, I don't care what other people say, that was a NASA JPL image of Mars and a place that Stuart found in that image, and it was real, except the fact that you know, Stuart said, you know, one woman especially had wrote him and complained. She says, I look at, and I see nothing in that DVD. She said, there's nothing there. And I told Stuart, Tell her to open her eyes. Look at it with her eyes open, you know? That's the problem.
Well, I mean, we live in really scary times, but it's also really invigorating times too.
That is true. These times are really, you know, I have to say, you know, sometimes I had thought because of, you know, I had done so much work for so many years. You know, I had physical newsletters years and years ago.
Yes.
And I had worked so hard, and it seemed like all I did was really get nowhere particularly, except, you know, I look back now, because I'm almost 70 now. I mean, I'm getting along. And, you know, I look back now, and it was probably the most exciting life I could have probably had, except through the experience of it itself. I felt like I was getting nowhere, but I did present some data that people just simply had to close their eyes not to see because it was real. And it still is real. It's out there, and we're finding more and more every day.
More and more every day. That, well, you just, you know, and the only defense in all of this, Larry, is knowing that the Lord knows you. That's
Absolutely.
The defense in
Absolutely.
all of this. Because if we got special forces guys over in Afghanistan that were taking on a giant and could not kill it, well, they finally did, but it gave them a hell of a fight, didn't it?
Well, you know, I know you're familiar with weapons, you know, guns.
Yes.
And they were using .308 and .50 calibers. Now, that is guns.
And we're back. Larry Taylor, my guest today. You can sign up for his email listings. Just go to LarryWTaylor.org, LarryWTaylor.org. Scroll down to the bottom. There's the email. Drop him a note says, put me on the list. Put me on the list. We've got a caller. Who we got?
Good afternoon. This is Ann from Denver.
Hey, Ann.
How are you?
We're hanging in.
Good. I have a number of questions for Mr. Taylor today. And the first question is Mr. Taylor, how tall are the remains of these giants you're talking about?
Oh, hi, Ann. I talked to, well, of course, Dr. Ken described some of this, but the bones that Klaus Dona has dug up in the Peru area, Ecuador, in that region, he claims that these were from 25 to 30 feet tall, or possibly more. I mean, we're not talking about a 7-footer that's good with basketballs. We're talking, you know, we're not talking about a 12-footer. We're talking about really, really big people. And this also goes by with the legends of a lot of the Indian tribes, the ancient legends, where they talked about giants that would chase down buffalo and you know, eat them, kill them and eat them, and how that they were cannibalistic. And you can see anything that would be any height of that kind at all, it would take a lot of food. And if we're talking
my
big.
next question is, my next question is what country have these remains been found in?
Oh, these have been found in a number of countries. I just stated 2 of them especially. The graveyards in Ecuador and Peru seems to be revealing a number of them, but they've been found all over the world. Now, I can't go to a museum right now and show you one. You know,
maybe in the dark bowel basements of the Smithsonian Institute.
You're right.
Okay. Next question. You mentioned that they had conducted DNA.
Yes.
And the DNA they discovered from hair samples were hybrids. So what is the mix? Is it human alien?
It's not human. That's what I'm saying. It's a humanoid creature, but it is not human. And I admit, when I say human, I'm speaking as of Adamic. In other words, the creation God made Adam, and those that were, his progeny, are not these creatures. These creatures are other than Adamic, and it wasn't, some of these samples that the DNA they've mixed is they've tested from the giants and also the elongated skull peoples and hybrid creatures that are alive today that gave them samples, and these all show to be similar in DNA, but it is not Adamic. In other words, it's not what I would call the human race as we know it.
So there's no human DNA in it?
I'm sorry, I can't hear you.
So can you hear me?
We lost all your volume, man.
Well, let me go back to the other phone.
Yes, love those phones.
Well, interesting questions, though. Really, very interesting.
I'm back.
A lot of people, Randy, don't know how
Hello?
big these were. And
hang on, Ann. No, I mean, if we the last of the giants, I mean, was King Og, and we've got, and those are just the little cousins of the big guys
after the flood, people.
Yes.
So I'm back on the other phone. Hopefully this is better.
Yeah,
I'm having a hard time hearing Mr. Taylor myself. So, you said that they found some of these in suspended animation?
That is what the researcher Moldashev says, the Russian, up in the Himalayas and caverns.
Huh. And are they the same species of the bones that were found in Peru and Ecuador?
That is unknown because of the energy source that surrounds them. A human being cannot approach them because, and Moldashev almost lost his life. Those humans that approach this energy shield that's around them begins to have strokes. They start having bleeding in their head and body, and the human being is incapable of approaching these creatures.
Huh. So what do you think they are?
I think they're part of the fallen angel folks from the Nephilim were now, you got to remember, the Nephilim, as I call them, or Nephilim, or what we call, or term as giants. These were not human. These were actually the prodigy or the children of the mating of fallen angels and human women.
Yeah, I understand that, but in the book of Enoch, it specifically states that whole group was destroyed.
Well, let me correct
you
there.
One of the reasons
if you look
for
at Genesis,
the flood and the Noahic flood was that they had corrupted mankind and the earth had been destroyed because of it.
Let me say something. Now, I've said this on a number of radio shows that the Bible clearly says the giants, and this is what the Lord's word says, they were destroyed from the face of the earth. Didn't say anything about destroying any of them under the surface. It said only the face of the earth, and it's very clear the surface of the planet was the only place the destruction hit.
So how did those caverns, many Christians believe that during the flood of Noah, the earth underwent tremendous change physically when the continents began to split and so forth. How did those underground caverns that house these gigantic beings withstand and the whole turmoil that was going on physically on the earth during the flood of Noah?
I really could answer that much more, I guess you could say, intelligently if I would have lived then. But if I'd have lived there then, I wouldn't be here today. So from my end of the spectrum, I have to just tell you what they say they have found, and everybody has to make up their own mind.
Huh. Have they discovered any writings surrounding these creatures?
Tons of it. You have, that's one thing, and Randy's aware of this, is all of these ancient writings, the what they call Proto-Canaanite or ancient Hebrew writings and petroglyphs, they're all also under some kind of government control. You just can't go read this stuff.
Well, let me rephrase my question. My question is what I meant to ask is, are there any writings by them in the tombs that have been unearthed?
I do not know.
Huh. That's what I would be interested in knowing, if they had any written language, and if so, has that language been discovered in their tombs? So there's still a lot of questions I have. It's a fascinating topic, but I have a lot of questions. So, what's going on with CERN? Could you go into some detail about what they're doing at CERN? I think where's that, in Switzerland or something?
That's in Geneva, Switzerland, and a lot of that, has been secret, except for the experiments of colliding the process where they're hunting the dark matter, the Higgs boson, which they claim to have found. They also are talking about, creating those small black holes, temporary black holes. And I'll tell you, somebody that's good on that kind of stuff is, Daniel Holdings with his research, and also, of course, Stan Deo, and I'll tell you somebody else. If you get a chance, you can read some of this data if you go to skywatchtv.com. Tom Horn and a multitude of people there are researching a lot of this stuff and are giving out warnings about where this may lead. And, without me, the thing about CERN, if you remember a number of years ago, they actually went secret with a lot of the data. And so what they're really doing and what they say they're doing appears to be two different things.
In the book of Jude, it talks about, as it was in the days of Noah, so shall it be with the coming of the Son of Man. And so I was just wondering if you think that this may be that time in relationship to the whole history of these giants.
Well, I think that we're at the part of where Jesus spoke and said that it would actually be worse than before the flood. It would be similar, but it would actually be worse in our time than it was then. And that's what we have a hard time wrapping our mind around. We can't even wrap our mind around pre-flood. But asked us to get worse than that in our mind, and we're lost. I mean, we don't have the data. We have bits and parts, small pieces in the books, different books.
So you're
but really,
saying that the United States military engaged some of these Nephilim?
Absolutely, that's what they say, and the ones that engaged them are the ones that actually tell the story. So it's you would have to think that probably did occur.
Huh.
This was in Afghanistan.
And this was in Afghanistan.
And
where can I find these people who engaged the Nephilim?
Go Google up Watchers 10. And
that doesn't help me much because I have no internet.
Oh,
you have no internet.
You probably are not going to find them.
What, the people?
Yeah, the
people
witnesses
involved in this.
If you have no internet, you're not going to have a way to look at any of the data or even talk to them. Other than maybe I'll tell you, Steve Quayle knows who they are, George Newry knows who they are, L.A. Marzulli, Richard Shaw, but, I can't tell you they will talk to you. I mean, I don't know.
Right.
You got a library close to you?
Well, but then I I have no driver's license or Social Security number, so how can I get a library card?
Well, let's see.
They demand both of those indicia in order to get a library card in order to use their computer.
Really?
Yes, really. Uh-huh. Absolutely. I've already looked into it. That's the policy of the Denver Public Library, the Arapahoe Library District.
Well, I don't know. I'll tell you what, if you can get you a copy of Watchers 10, it would be well worth, I don't know, about $20 to get it and look at the data. It's Watchers 10. L.A. Marzulli is really, really good.
L.A. Marzulli.
Yes.
And that's a book?
No, it's a DVD.
No, it's a DVD.
Oh.
Watchers 10. But if you don't have a DVD player, you're out. You can't watch it, even if you get it.
I've got that.
Okay. Yeah, I would get that. It's called Watchers 10. TNA is the name of it.
CERN opening up portals to other dimensions?
I'm sorry, is it what?
Are the people in CERN opening up portals to other dimensions?
That's what it appears to be, according to Tom Horn and others that have really looked into a lot of this.
Huh.
It appears that they're trying to open portals that have been there for a long, long time.
Thank you.
Hey, Ann, thanks for calling.
Bye.
Thanks for listening. Stay tuned. We'll be right back here. And we're back. Larry Taylor, my guest. Watchman on the wall out there trying to awaken the slumbering masses. You can find out more. Go to LarryWTaylor.org. LarryWTaylor.org. Scroll down there and just go to his email, drop him an email, say, hey, put me on the list, and you'll get all kinds of updates from the Middle East and earthquakes and earth changes and all that stuff that is, well, the Lord said would be happening. Larry, you're a former police officer, and the leftist communists out there have declared war on the police. A lot of these shooters and the shooting that's going on, I really think these are Manchurian candidates coming right out of the laboratories of the CIA and the FBI that they want to foment this war. And it's just, I mean, it's getting scary that you see flashing red and blue lights in your rearview mirror, and it's like, Lord, is this going to turn into a, am I going to come home to you today or not? It's getting, because, the police are on total edge, and it hasn't been like this before in the past, has it?
Well, interestingly, Randy, is, all you got to do, and it was this way when I was a cop, really, everything went smooth. It just did what the police told you. And, when they would stop you or check you or look at your driver's license or walk up to your car or ask you to get out, open the trunk or, just get out. All you got to do, the safest way is if you're not a drug dealer or you're not running guns or you don't have a body in the trunk of your car, is just comply. You may not like it, and you know well as I do, it's almost a joke. People say, well, the Constitution. Well, yeah, but when you have a lawless government, you think they're going to worry about the Constitution?
No.
And Randy, you know clearly that we have already seen lawlessness in the executive branch of our government. We've seen the same lawlessness and the letdown of the American people by Congress, and we have now seen the change in the Supreme Court. So we have changed. There has been a transformation, even though I don't like to agree with Obama. There has been a transformation over a number of years that have moved us away the way we've operated for years. And the main thing is, Randy, people need to comply, but what the trouble is we have raised numbers of generations of children that don't know that no means no. They won't follow orders. They won't listen. You can't talk to them. You raised up lawless children, which the school systems have done. One thing, Randy, I was awestruck basically when I really got to see Donald Trump's family. They're the most well-mannered people almost on the face of the planet. I mean, they operate like diplomats. And then I look at all the people that I've known, and I don't know anybody's families that are that courteous. Of course they could be put on a front, but they're doing a good job of it if they are. We have moved in an area of lawlessness, and of course the Bible said we would. We're there. And how is this going to work out? It's not going to work out well, not for America.
Well, in Jeremiah, it talks about the children ruling over the adults.
See that every day?
Yes.
Every day.
All I got to do is go in Walmart.
Yeah. Oh, my.
I refuse to darken their doors.
Well, I tell you what, Randy, when the outreaches are going out anymore, they're really talking about, you talked about in the beginning of your program about knowing the Lord. And then I know you stress a lot of times, it's really pretty important that he know you.
Yes.
But, that relationship is not sought after by the youth of our nation anymore. It's not even a commodity that they desire.
And if they do, and they're going into these mega churches and everything else, they're getting the message of another Jesus.
That's right.
And that's what's so scary about it. Because, they're the youth, and they need lights and bands and fireworks and all this stuff to follow, get them in the door.
And, one of the things talking about our generation, this new move of this Pokemon Go, I know you've heard of that.
Yes.
I don't know if you heard the show that Stuart and I did where there's actually a warning out of Israel about Pokemon Go. Had you heard of that?
No. Tell us about that.
Yeah, Israel reports that Pokemon Go is a perfect terror tool, that the terrorists can simply program Pokemon Go to bring masses of seekers to a certain location where the trap has been set, and they can slaughter them there. This is a terror tool.
Ooh.
Dug up anywhere, or especially we don't even want to know about something that may not be dead completely yet. How are you going to warn people about their favorite games?
Exactly. Stay tuned. We'll be right back. 877-254-7524. Question, comment, phone lines are open here on the American Freedom Network. And we're back. My guest today, Larry Taylor. LarryWTaylor.org is the website. Scroll down at the bottom. There's the email. Drop him an email and say, "Hey, put me on the list," and that'll get you updates on earth changes and what's going on in the Middle East. And that's just a whole powder keg over there. We need to keep our eye on that because, Jerusalem, Larry, is God's time clock, isn't it?
Well, it is, Randy. And let me be careful to say this, too. As the woman that called in, one thing that I try to do on your show, Randy, is whenever I talk about different subject matter, and a lot of the subject matter I talk about is really way out there, I don't ask anybody to believe it, and I always try to give sources where they can research. Now, she can't hardly research without any availability of the Internet at all or any of that data, but that's why I tell people, and that's why I'm so careful to give sources, so that people can literally go look for themselves, look it up, Google it, search it, go get the books, get the DVDs and study it. And I try to be careful to do that where people will have sources. And, of course, I always do apply information back to the Bible, and I love the book of Enoch and Jubilees and Jasher, and there's a lot of good stuff out there that backs up what we talk about.
No, absolutely. And none of this, Larry, is being taught in the churches.
Actually, zero of it is. Zero.
Yeah. And the Lord, he said he hasn't given us a spirit of fear, but of power and of love and of a sound mind. And a part of that is knowing what's coming on the horizon here. And the battles that would, this war that's going on in the heavenlies, the war that's going on in the other dimensions is getting ready to break out here. And because I want to go back to some of these shooters. In these shootings, Larry, is it demonic possession, or is it Manchurian Candidate mind control programming, or both?
I think, Randy, to answer your question, it's absolutely both. Number one, there is a spirit that is behind this terrorism and this mass murder, I guess you could say, mindset that has stricken planet Earth. And it's a spirit that's backing this. And Augusto Perez, of course, said he actually has been shown in the spirit realm monstrous spirits that are going to be released that have never been on the planet before, involved with mankind, that are coming. And so what we're seeing is hard to understand, because when these spirits begin to activate people, whether they're activated initially by commands, as you're talking about Manchurian Candidate, and listen, Randy, Iraq and Afghanistan and some of these wars were literally the laboratories where Manchurian Candidates were groomed. Actually became some of the to the level that they were actually could be used, and there's a lot of whistleblower activity about that, but I won't go into that. But I think you're right, Randy. I think that it's both. We're living in a very, very dangerous time, even now in America. I mean, what we're seeing in Europe, it's already here. It just hasn't happened today.
Yeah.
And the warnings are out there. I've talked to people like Dan Gordon, who's from the military, in Israel, and he's written an incredible couple of books. The second one especially, Day of the Dead America. People need to read that. I mean, all the warnings are there, and I can't tell people how many books that right now have been warning America of the border situation, the terrorism situation, the ISIS situation, and all this is coming together right at the same time. And we've got the smoke screen of the conventions going on, and that really is a movie house or a movie theater show of itself, of its own. And we're in a very, very dangerous time, Randy. Very dangerous.
Yes, and as do you see the rich men of the earth, the power brokers behind the scenes, as the American people are kind of coming out of their stupor, out of the denial juice has dried up a little bit, and do you see a false flag of 10 times what 9/11 was coming up?
Oh, that's without a doubt, and that's what some of the books like Dan Gordon literally warns about, a false flag that pales 9/11 in comparison. But those that run this American government at the moment, that's why I laugh so much at, Liberty's Last Stand, that book, and Dan Gordon's too. You've got a president that can't even speak the words, and literally doesn't let his all those underlings or those people that work under him speak the words. They can't even say the words. So how are they going to protect you? But that's okay. Go to bed and sleep well and dream tonight, because believe Barack Obama, we're all okay.
Yes. We're all okay.
It's all a lie. It's absolutely all a lie. Somebody asked me why I thought Barack Obama was lying. I said, because I see his lips moving. That's how I know it. And I'm speaking from almost 8 years of the history of Barack Obama. I'm not talking about making up a joke on him or anything. This is what he's done almost for 8 solid years. If you watch very closely, what his mouth's saying and what his hands are doing are diametrically opposed continually.
And then we'll have the push here. Well, get to that after the break. Stay tuned. And we're back. Closing minutes of today's show. Randy Yarborough with you. My guest, Larry Taylor. You can sign up for his email alerts. Go to Larry W. Taylor. LarryWTaylor.org. Scroll down at the bottom of the page. There's the email. Drop him a note. Say, put me on the list. Put me on the list. Because we're all on a list. It just depends on well, is your name written in that book of life, or is it in the other book?
Oh. Well, Randy, before the show's over, I do want to tell people that, I'm really not Dr. Doom like Ed Dames is called, but I do want to, just what you just said, just make sure that not only do you know the Lord, but he knows you, and that your name is written in the book of life. And we're in a very unprecedented time, and one of the reasons is because heaven isn't silent. If you look at the historical or biblical process of heaven intervening in human affairs, it's all through the book. The supernatural is all through the book. Angels are always involved, and the interesting thing, Randy, is the fact that there's also some human wild cards, as I call them. And one of those right now that's operating, and unless you understand the wild card, unless you read about Cyrus the Persian king, I'm not talking about the pastor of the First Baptist Church in Dallas, Texas. I'm talking about Cyrus the Persian king. If you go back in there and read that, and I relate Donald Trump somewhat to that individual, Cyrus the Persian king was a wild card, as I call it. Donald Trump's a wild card. Benjamin Netanyahu's a wild card. Vladimir Putin is a wild card. And so what I'm telling you, I'm saying all of that to say this. It's not all woe. We win. At the end, we win. And between now and the end, there's some wild cards that heaven will move upon to do things that are going to make this big game and this planet Earth really, really interesting. And so I don't want everybody to go get off the show today with a feeling down and low. Be excited. We do win.
We win big time in the end. And our job, Larry, is to say, we win in the end. So you lost folks out there. You lost people. There is a solution to all of this. You don't have to follow the road of, destruction. But, the Lord said he would pick their delusions. So that's trying to break through that delusion that we keep doing these radio shows.
Absolutely.
So.
And Randy, for years I had a physical newsletter that I would write. It'd take me about a week or so to get it done and printed and sent out to people. It'd take them almost a week to get it. But, as that woman was talking earlier that doesn't have the internet, I've gone totally internet basically because I can't even do the research, write a newsletter, and get it to people in time for it to even be noteworthy anymore. The things are happening so fast on this planet. You've got to be in cyberspace, Randy, and you understand this with the radios, or you're not relevant anymore.
Absolutely. Larry Taylor, Thanks so much for being with us.
Shalom, my friend.
Shalom, God bless, and hang in there. And remember, folks,